Arcanine may be very bad, but it's still very majestic. GSC UU Arcanine is a classic example of why stats aren't everything in competitive Pokemon. Despite possessing the highest base stat total of anything in the tier, Arcanine is a terrible Pokemon in GSC UU. It is considered to be the second worst Pokemon in GSC UU, only ahead of Vileplume. While Arcanine does have great stats, its typing is really bad, and its move pool is shallow. Arcanine is very poor into the water types that are on every team. There's other top Pokemon that give it issues. Fitting Arcanine onto a team is very difficult, and most of its roles can be fulfilled by a better Pokemon. Arcanine does have some good matchups, but that's about it. Arcanine has had almost zero tournament usage in the past few years. It's no wonder that Arcanine has been proposed for a drop to NU. It's really bad. Let's analyze the legendary Pokemon, who isn't a legendary. Let's focus on Arcanine's few positive traits before going into its negative ones. Right off the bat, it does have great stats. Arcanine doesn't falter in a single stat. It's fast, it's bulky, and it's strong both physically and specially. Arcanine's 95 speed is very good by GCUU standards, outspeeding Mr. Mime, Qwilfish, Gyarados, Nidoqueen, Blastoise, and more. Arcanine's bulk is also solid. It's a decent check to non-water type special attackers, like Mr. Mime, Haunter, and Electabuzz. Arcanine is probably the best Pinsir in the whole tier. It outspeeds it, torches it with Fire Blast, and has the bulk to tank boosted attacks. Arcanine is able to switch into and threaten the tier's grass types, though it does hate status. Arcanine is able to tank a boosted Hidden Power Ground from Scyther, and retaliate with a strong Fire Blast. Fire Blast isn't guaranteed to one-hit KO, so if you really want, you can use Extreme Speed to finish it off in the next turn. Fire Blast also scorches Magneton and Piloswine. Hidden Power Electric is used to 2 KO Gyarados, and deals solid chip damage to Qwilfish. Double Edge is used because, quite frankly, there isn't anything else to run. It 4-hit KOs Lantern and Hypno, and 3-hit KOs Chansey, so you might as well run it. Roar is used to rack up spikes damage and phase out boosted threats. It's decently annoying for SD Pass Scyther teams. When Agility Pass teams were allowed, Roar Arcanine was actually quite good against them, because it was a phasal that wasn't threatened by Girafarig. If you don't feel like using Roar, you can use Extreme Speed, which lets you pick off faster threats if they are very low. It's most useful against Scyther, but it's also helpful against Dodrio, Electabuzz, and Kadabra. Arcanine's move pool is so shallow that I don't really know what else you'd run. A set with Fire Blast, Crunch, and Rest Hog used to be Arcanine's main set, but nowadays you just get perma-walled by Blastoise, Gyarados, Lantern, Quagsire, and so on. Actually, maybe you could use Crunch as the 4th move on an all-out attacking Arcanine. It does decent damage to Slowbro, and it lets you fish for special defense drops. In practice, none of this really matters because Arcanine is crap, but it does have a few good matchups. For one, Arcanine shits on hyper offense teams. These teams don't typically use a fire resist, so Arcanine is free to spam Fire Blast into them. It counters Pinsir, and massively threatens everything else. Arcanine is also solid into Mr. Mime Gyarados offenses if they use Piloswine over Nidoqueen. Gyarados is 2-hit KO'd by Hidden Power Electric, and Qwilfish is 3-hit KO'd. Nothing else on these teams wants to handle Arcanine. Arcanine's Fire Blast pounds the likes of Mr. Mime, Granbull, and Haunter. When building with Arcanine, you want to prepare for the water types that it sucks ass against. The most prominent two are Lantern and Blastoise, so Victory Bell of all things actually makes a decent partner. Victory Bell is very good at punishing Lantern and Blastoise. With Giga Drain, it can one-hit KO Quagsire. Other Pokemon that can punish Blastoise, like Scyther or Nightmare Mr. Mime, work well too. You obviously want spikes when using Arcanine, because they make its attacks sting more and put more pressure on water types. Considering Arcanine lets in the Blastoise that can rapid spin spikes away, it's wise to pair Arcanine with Haunter, who can spin block. If you run into a team that doesn't have a fire resist for whatever reason, yeah, Arcanine can be good. It's just a shame that nearly every team happens to have one. Arcanine's fire typing is really not good in GCUU. Arcanine is very bad into the water types that flock this tier. While it can 2-hit KO Gyarados, it matches up very poorly into Blastoise, Lantern, Quagsire, Slowbro, Slowking, and even Omastar. It's extremely difficult for Arcanine to break some of these. A healthy Quillfish is also capable of switching into Arcanine and setting up spikes. Arcanine invites in both Spikers and Rapid Spin users. All of these water types are very common, and Arcanine is very bad at breaking them. These water types can then 2-hit KO Arcanine with their stab moves. Arcanine's typing doesn't give it any useful resistances. The bug resistance doesn't really matter, because bug moves are very rare. The grass resistance doesn't mean much, because the grass types just ruin it with status. Arcanine is also weak to ground and rock. Water types aren't the only thing troubling Arcanine either. Arcanine is unreliable at breaking Hypno, and if Hypno happens to run Thunder Wave, it will entirely neuter your Arcanine. Arcanine is similarly unreliable against Nidoqueen. Fire Blast only 3-hit KOs, and Nidoqueen has Moonlight. Plus, it's Fire Blast. It only has APP, and its accuracy is unreliable, meaning Nidoqueen is favoured in the matchup. Arcanine is also unreliable at breaking Chansey. If you use Double Edge against it, you take a lot of recoil damage, and Chansey threatens you with Present. Nothing Arcanine does is really that unique. Arcanine has the same issues as something like Feraligatr when it comes to being a mixed attacker without rest. It really hates status, and it can be worn down. Unlike Feraligatr though, Arcanine is really bad. There's other Pokemon who can check Mr. Mime, Haunter, and Pinsir, and they match up better against the overall metagame. Pokemon like Hypno and Ampharos are good against the special attackers, and Pokemon like Dodrio can check Pinsir. These Pokemon actually match up well against the overall metagame. Arcanine is bad into Lantern Pylo, it's bad into Semi-Stall, it's bad into Full Stall, it's bad into Blastoise offenses, yada yada yada. Arcanine is a matchup fish into double bug teams, or certain versions of Mr. Mime Gyarados offenses. Fitting it onto a team is a nightmare, because you really need to go in on countering crap like Lantern and Nidoqueen, and Arcanine only has a limited defensive utility. Arcanine is very inconsistent and hard to use. Only the bravest GCUU players can use this one. I don't have much to say history-wise, because Arcanine has always been one of the worst Pokemon in the tier. It has had almost zero tournament usage over the years. It wasn't used once in the 2018 or 2019 editions of UUPL, and those were the Wild West days of GCUU. Vileplume was used more than Arcanine was. Arcanine has just gotten worse over the years, given the extreme rise in Lantern, Blastoise, and Quagsire. Up until a few months ago, Arcanine had less usage in tournaments than Furret and Bellsprout. I am not kidding there. Arcanine has been used so little in tournaments that it was proposed for a drop to NU last summer, though it hasn't gone anywhere yet. Arcanine would probably be stupid in GCNU, so maybe we should put it in NUBL. Either way, I don't really think it belongs in GCUU.